Welcome back to the Mid-Year YouTube channel. Today's episode, we're wrapping up a bunch of small details on the Tribute Split. I need to put a new door skin on the driver's side. We also need to install these little scallops into the roof panel. We need to install a couple bonding strips that we didn't get to when we installed the quarter panels last week. And then we have to start blending in the quarter panels and starting the body work there. So we got a lot of work to do, so be sure to stick around. In the last video, I installed new quarter panels on the Tribute Split, and I think they turned out pretty awesome. These are the 1.5 inch wider quarter panel from Dynamic. And overall, everything looks pretty good on here. So I'm gonna pull all the clamps off of this and really see what we're working with. In this video, we're gonna focus first on installing these two bonding strips that go in the taillight panel to the quarter panel. We're gonna install these splash shields, which are designed to work with the wider quarter panel. Then we're also gonna install these little gills that go in here. If you look at stock split windows, they have these, not this. So originally, whenever they built these roofs in '63, they couldn't have these louvers and have the part be removed from the mold. So it has this big scallop in it, and then they went and inserted a little piece. So I need to remove all this extra material around here and start fitting this little guy up into here. I scuffed these bonding strips and got them ready to glue in. I also have a ratchet strap going from the bottom of the quarter panels, lightly pulling them in to the right dimension, so that way the exhaust valance fits in there nice and tight, but not too tight and not too loose. So that's helping me get that adjusted right. And then this guy, it just kind of falls in place. So I'm gonna go ahead and get some glue on these, get those installed. So while that glue dries for the bonding strips, I'm gonna work on whittling these guys away to fit in a little more. You can see kind of how this is going to look, but I think to really get these to fit the way that this is designed and the way that GM did it, you have to come in here and remove all of this material out here in the scallop, and then all this needs to be scuffed, this as well, and then I think you just glue this outer perimeter in. So there's a little bit more manipulating to do. I have to do quite a bit more sanding. I have both taillight to quarter panel bonding strips installed, and those guys are drying right now. I've also been working on the little filler piece for this scallop here. We started off with the big piece that was about this size. Then I cut the edges off, and then I kind of rough cut it around the edges. This is the driver's side, but you can see it's still quite a bit bigger. Then I really refined it. I tried thinning it out to get it to a point so it lays in here pretty nice. So you can see it's fitting pretty nice. It still needs a little bit more refinement, but I need to sharpen some of these a little more to get this to sink in just a little bit more, but that's basically how it needs to fit. And I need to come through here and scuff this whole area up to prep this one for gluing. Then I got to get the other one caught up. I have to figure out how to clamp these dudes in place because they're pretty small and, well, they're a little flimsy now. So I need to figure out how to get this guy held in place, get the other one caught up, and we'll get these guys glued on. Then I also have these louvers glued in. I just used one clamp just to hold it in place here. And then everywhere else I was really just able to hold in with a little bit of tape over here, and that seemed to work just fine. These things are so small and fragile, they don't need a whole lot to hold it in place. So Just a little bit of tape did that. Also helped keep the glue in. This glue is a thinner consistency and it likes to run down, so that just helped it stay in the places I need it to. So this is going to need quite a bit of finish work and sanding, but this stuff sands pretty nice, and I think we'll have a nice product in the end. And now in here I removed the trim on the door, and now it's time to pull this door skin off. So we have a seam in here, they seam across a strip in the top here, and then the whole way around the perimeter. This door skin is basically ripped in half at this point, so we may have to take it off in 2 pieces. Probably use the air hammer from the inside to start working a seam once we get a hole, and we'll just go the whole way around and pop this thing off. So I removed the driver door skin and it came off pretty well. You can see it's pretty cracked, and it came off in a couple pieces just for the way it was cracked. But now's a good opportunity to show you guys what's under here, how this works. There's the outer skin on top, there's the inner fiberglass shell, and then anywhere where they had to mount screws, they have little nut plates all in here. And then this one is the biggest. This holds the nut plates for the door hinges here and here. This also gives you your attachment for your window regulator as well as the vent window. So this is a pretty important part. And now is a great time to check over all of these solid rivets that are all in through here. And they wrap the whole way around over here to make sure they're all nice and tight. Some of these get loose, especially since this door was in an accident. Like that one spins. A couple of these probably spin. Yeah, a lot of these are loose actually. So I either need to cut them off and put fresh ones in, or that's probably what I'll do. I'll just remove all the ones that are loose because it's a lot easier to get to now. And then we also have some damage to fix. You can see we have a pretty good sized crack right here, which this would have been, I don't want to say impossible to fix with the door skin on, but you'd have to reach your hand through this hole and get all the way over here. You could fix it from the outside, but to fix it from the inside would be rather challenging. So we need to grind this area back, kind of clamp this in place where we need it, and fiberglass that together. We can fiberglass it kind of heavy on this side because this is a pretty strong repair, and well, it doesn't matter if it's a little thicker on this side. That's not really gonna hurt anything. So we're gonna make sure this is nice and strong. And we also have a little crack down here, and then this flange came off, which goes somewhere over here, like about like that. So this flange needs to go back on. So there's a lot of little repairs to make, and then we have to remove all of the extra fiberglass in here and prep all these bond seams. But for our door skin, we have a brand new old stock skin here, which it's also an upgrade because we're going to the early style mirror base. But you can see it's a nice piece, and see if I can do this one-handed. Back a little bit. That's roughly where it's got to go, but you can see it fits on here real nice, and our body line pretty much lines up perfect. I wanted to put the quarter panel on with the old door skin to make sure that we got the quarter in the right spot, and that now we can use the quarter to help make sure the door skin's in the right spot. But I wanted to do all of this work before we put the front end on, well, kind of for this reason, because this will change the front shape of our door a little bit. So we want to make sure that that's right. So I have all the old adhesive removed, and then I came in here and patched up this area, made this real nice and strong. So this is solid. There's a little crack here and here, and then this lip was messed up. So I came through here, patched all that stuff up. It looks good, and I rescuffed it. So the door is ready to glue, but we need to fix these rivets. So I've showed you this in other videos, servicing these, but we've never had quite the opportunity to look at them from this perspective. So I am going to move the door back and forth here, and if you look, this hinge plate really isn't moving. You can see it wiggling in here, and all of these rivets from here the whole way up, I don't know if this guy's loose, but basically all of these guys are loose. So that is allowing the shell just to move freely. So this is a little bit tricky to repair whenever, you know, the door's fully assembled, but it's really easy to do right now. So I'm gonna remove all of these rivets. I'll probably just take a cutoff wheel, cut the back side of it off, and they'll just fall out the other side, and then we'll put some fresh rivets in here and tighten this door up. I think that just happens just from a lot of opening, or if people open the door to the stop and push on it further, I think that kind of stretches the fiberglass, and over time that slowly loosens it up. So it's good to take care of these things the best you can. They're a little fragile to a lot of cycles, and people probably abused them back in the day. So it's good to freshen these up. I'll check all of them. If you want to know if they're bad, you can kind of come in here and you can either rock them a little bit, or you can give it a little bit of a spin or a twist. Actually, this one's missing the head completely. This one's just a shank. Okay, well that explains why that one's loose. Okay, so we'll come in here and service all these ones that need to be serviced. I'll just use the air hammer, some solid aluminum rivets, and a dolly on the back side. We'll tighten all those up, recheck the door, and then we should be able to get this skin on, which I went through here with 36 grit the whole way around the perimeter and roughed it up. So I have all the solid rivets installed. I'll pull this off in a sec to show you guys, but I wanted to mock up the door skin for the last time. I started off by just setting it in place and clamping it along the top with the door closed till I was happy with this body line, with the door gap and the way it was fitting. Then I started clamping it in place. Then I had to open the door just to be able to get clamps down here around the bottom and around the side. I used just a chunk of steel here to kind of spread out the load to make sure everything stayed flat. But over here, this is really the only transition we have to worry about, making sure this lines up nice, which this does. We care about our body line. Everything else falls into place based off of the top of the door and the side. Everything else just kind of works out in the wash. So now I'm gonna pull this off. So now with the skin off, you can see all the rivets I put in along here. I didn't replace all of them, just the ones that were loose. And now if I open the door, you can see the door still flexes just because the outer skin isn't on, that triangulates it. But you can see if you get past the horrible squeaking, we don't have any flex. So we are in good shape there. So now it's time to get some glue. I'll probably start putting the 3M 08115 glue right across the top seam. I'll probably do everything I can on here, and then for the stuff that wraps underneath and the stuff that's, you know, further angled than vertical, we'll put it on the skin just to make it easy. We'll plop that on, work our way across the top, get it lined up, open the door, get the clamps how we like it. If we need to, we can even use some tape to hold it in place. This is a pretty easy bond, but I have plenty of clamps, including some former jumper cables. Don't throw anything away. So I have the new driver door skin glued in place, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. We're just gonna let this thing sit up for a day or so, but this seam turned out nice. Everything fits up just the way it should. It was a pretty simple glue job, so it's nice whenever you have a nice panel and a pretty good door. So we fixed all the door's issues underneath, fixed the big crack in the front, the crack across the bottom, fixed the rivets in it, and then obviously we're putting a new door skin on it. So once this cures up, the structure of this door should be back to as good as new, if not better than new. So that's a big thing. Whenever this cures up, we'll take all the clamps off, sand the little bit of flashing in the door jambs, and then we'll probably have to do a little bit of fitting to get this to fit up to the quarter, but I'll probably work on door gaps later. I also started sanding the scallops here a little bit just because, well, it looked kind of messy. I was mainly concerned with getting it glued in the right spot. I wasn't concerned with having a bunch of extra glue. So of course there was a lot of glue in these corners and in this radius. So I cleaned this up. It's still a little bit choppy and it still could use a lot of refining, hand sanding, and just a little bit of filling in some spots. But I'll leave that for the owner. This is a pretty good start. I just wanted to really give you guys an idea of what it took to get these installed. Then we come around to this side. This side also looks awesome. It just flows really nice. It's just a nice piece. I went at it first with the DA over the top, then I took my angle grinder and just kind of got rid of some of the extra flashing. Then I went at it with a carbide bit just to get into this radius. It's nice to use these little sanding drums, but they wear out pretty quick, where this guy, it gums up, but you can just peel it back out. But this is a nice sharp radius to give you a nice consistent radius the whole way around here that won't wear, it won't really get all that dull. So this was a really good tool to dig that out. Then obviously did some hand sanding and used some different little barrel sanders just to get it kind of knocked down. But all this work in this area really gave me an appreciation, because I mean it still needs more work, but this really gave me an appreciation for what the designers did back in the day. I would have loved to be a fly on the wall whenever they were designing this car originally and coming up with the idea to use this little design back here to mimic the design that was in the side gills. I assume they wanted to have the scallops here and the scallops here, but then engineering came to the designers and said, hey, we can't make the roof in one piece this way because of this design. It's not going to release from the mold, so we need to make one big indent to get it to come out. So I'm sure somebody thought, can we just leave it with the one big indent? And they said, no, it's got to match the side. What's wrong with you? It's got to match the side. So I can't imagine the amount of engineering time, designing time, and then also how long it took to do each one of these cars. I don't know how they did it originally. I think they glued it in place like this, because whenever we stripped the paint on my red car, it actually looked pretty similar to this. But I'm sure there was a good bit of finish work in these areas. So I mean, this piece has no purpose other than style. So I think it's pretty cool that they cared so much about these cars, that they wanted to make sure their vision came true with the split, with the scallops in the side and in the, I mean, there was nothing easy about building these cars back in the day, the way they put the quarter panels on and built the entire car. So I mean, it's, I think it's a shame to see that that kind of thinking went away with the new cars, the new toasters that we have today. But I think seeing stuff like this showed that they really cared about what they did. And working on this definitely gives you an appreciation, and building the entire car from the birdcage up really gives me an appreciation for what these guys went through back in the day. I would love to have a time machine, go back and just, you know, be an apprentice working on the assembly line, building these things. I would have loved to do this back in the day, but this is as close as we can get. And I think this is a pretty nice repair. I think this car is turning out awesome. Next week, we're going to pull the body off the chassis because we need to fix the firewall. I need to fix this section that's missing. You need to get this smooth firewall kit from Dynamic installed on here. So we're going to do a lot of sanding, a lot of prepping. Then I also need to install the body rivets that go between the floor pan to the steel rockers underneath, just to tie everything in together. So we're going to have a lot of work to get this figured out because I spliced a couple firewalls together. So I'll go through that in the next video. This kit will help stiffen everything up, also help smooth it out. And then that'll be the last video on this car from the firewall back at that point. Then after that, we're just on to getting the front end on here, and then this thing's pretty much ready to go home. So we're getting we're getting close on this dude. So I'm pretty fired up about that. So make sure you tune in next week to see how this installs, because, well, I don't know how it installs either. So we're gonna learn together. So it'll be fine. But that's gonna do it for this video. If you enjoyed, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I have a lot of work to do, so I'll catch you guys later. And if you're still watching the video, I'll give you a little extra sneak peek here. I had to test fit this firewall delete kit on here just to see what it looks like. And so far it looks like it's gonna fit up nice. It's gonna take some trimming, but that'll be in next week's video. So be sure to stick around for that.